Hello friends, welcome to my channel Sushant Chess. Today we are going to look at opening for white. We are going to look at the Sicilian Scheveningen. So let's see what is Sicilian Scheveningen. E4, C5, NF3, D6, D4, CD4 and D4. So we are at the open Sicilian now. We have been discussing various Sicilians. We have looked at Sicilian Dragon and Najdorf. Today we are looking at the Scheveningen. So after the moves NF6 and C3, black can go for the move A6 here and then play E6, which will lead to Scheveningen. So the players, those who don't want the white player to know whether he is going for Najdorf or Scheveningen, they will choose the order A6 first. Otherwise, black can also play the move E6 instantly. But here white will come to know that black is opting for the Scheveningen Sicilian. That is why the line which we are choosing will be going for the same setup here also. So this is going to be the continuation of our English attack only. Whether it is E6 or A6, white is going to play the move Bishop E3. With E6 we note one difference, that Knight G4 possibility is gone now, because queen can take on G4. If A6 is there, Knight G4 possibility still remains. So now A6, F3 before going QD2, because after QD2 there can be NG4. So BD7, QD2, castle and castle. Here black goes for the main move NC6. Black has other options like going ND7 or even omitting the move NC6 for the time being. He can also go for the move B5, BB7 and try to play D5. So the lines of Sicilians are very deep and very detailed, and each variation or each move has different idea. Sometimes they transpose, sometimes we can totally have a different kind of positions arising out of them. So today we are going to focus on the move NC6. It's a direct approach by black. Black wants to take ND4 and divert this bishop. Those who have seen my Najdorf lesson, they know that white is aiming for G4, H4, H5, G5, G6. When after H6, bishop into H6 sacrifice is the main idea. But by doing Knight D4, BD4, black is going to divert that bishop over there. There are some differences in Scheveningen and Najdorf. Firstly, the pawn on E6 can become target here, and the advantage is in E5, that is with Najdorf, the D5 square becomes weak. So Knight D5 is always available to white, which is not there over here. So there are some advantages and some disadvantages. So white goes for the move G4 here, and this is a very critical moment where black can choose between going normal plan QC7, BD7, Rook C8, or he can choose Bishop D, Knight D4, BD4 and D5. So I will try to cover both the setups today. Let's see. So first we will look at the move QC7. So QC7, so that B5 can be played without losing the knight, or QC7, idea BD7, Rook C8, putting pressure on the C5, which is the main idea of the Sicilian defense. White goes H4, BD7, H5. We have already discussed, when we have played H4, usually it makes less sense to go G5 at this point, because G5, Knight H5 will make us spend some moves. Of course, this G5 is also okay. After an H5 we will see we can attack the knight in various ways. One of the plan is BH3, BG4. Bishop is more useful on H3 when this bishop has gone to B7. So E6 becomes weak in that case. So here H5. Black goes Rook C8, G5. Knight has to go to E8. And since we know already the queen has moved from D8, white can go for the move G6 instantly. Small point I would like to mention here, that if queen is on D8, then after the move H6 we cannot do BH6, GH, QH6 due to G5 check. Then in that case we have to go kb1 first and then do g6. Here after g6, if h6 is played, white has to first take knight d4. Immediate bh6 allows knight into d4 by black. So white has to first take knight into c6, queen c6, and now the move bh6 gets him into a winning position. So if bishop is not taken, bishop will move back and we will have the move h6. And if bishop is taken, then this leads to a forced mate. Since now after knight f6 only move to guard the mate on h7, fg hg is even worse. There will be two threats on h7 and h8. The rook would be open. So f6 and here white mates by force after gf7. This is one of the difference. When the pawn is on e5, the king can go kf7, ke6. But here after kf7, qg6 is checkmate. And after the only other move rook f7, we see that there is a forced mating tree. Knight g4, rook g4, rook g7 and qg7 mates. So here we see that white's attack has become very fast and black's pieces have come very slowly, we can say. So the main setup for black would be to go nd4. Let's have a look at that line now. After the 10th move g4, black has the main idea knight into d4, which I told you just now. After knight into d4, bishop has to go to d4. No point in getting the queen to d4 because we want to still maintain attack on the c1 h6 diagonal also, and the bishop now starts eyeing the g7 square. So here we have various setups for black. Main idea of giving up nd4 is black is able to play b5, b4 very fast. Okay, so b5, h4, and now at this point again black has two ideas. In fact, we can say three ideas, but I am saying two ideas because the move b4 we will see in every variation. So the first thing what I want to tell you is after the move b4, which will transpose to either, after b4 white can choose between na4, qa5, b3, but here it is very risky because bd7 and the a4 knight will get attacked instantly. So usually after b4 knight comes to e2, and after the move queen a5, kb1, this knight has option of going to c1. Let's say after the move e5, bishop e3, b6, knight comes to c1, and then we go h5, g5 quickly. So this will roughly transpose to one of our variations. After bb7, white goes instant g5. This idea is very important. Now nd7 can allow bishop h3 followed by g6. So this is an additional idea. White need not go h5, g6 all the time. He can play to nd7 the move bishop h3, which we will see in the next variation. Now let's look at the move knight h5. The knight tries to block the advance of the h pawn, but the knight itself is on the edge of the board and it has got no useful squares. So comes the move bh3, and now we see bg4 is a serious threat. After b4, knight e2, queen a5, kb1, rook c8. The f rook wants to come to c8, but now after the move bishop g4, g6 is forced, and when after bh5, gh5, we see that the knight is heading to knight f4 could also be possible, but here there is risk of allowing e5. So knight comes to g3 and knight will go to h5 and knight f6 check. Do note that white king position is still safe. Still there will be some time to get d5 or rearrange the bishop on this diagonal. Even if there was a bishop on e6, we could have played the move b3. So what we can say is that white's attack has become very strong over here. Apart from that, white can ignore black's threat and immediately go knight h5 and knight f6 check, sacrificing the bishop, bishop f6, gf6, when QH6 will threaten a forced mate on the G7 square. So this position we can say white is already clearly better. So here black played the move ND7 directly, which actually transposes. We could have had the same position after B5, NE2, Queen A5, KB1 also, like we will see now. Now after the move G5, black went B4, Knight E2, and now black has again two choices. One which I have been showing you, Queen comes to A5, and the second is black also wants to push his pawns and go A5, A4. So let's look at Queen A5 first. After Queen A5, KB1, black can try E5, Bishop E3, Knight C5, Bishop is heading to E6, H5, E6, Knight C1, and now black can try the moves Rook B8, Rook C8, followed by NA4 and NC3 check. So even if NA4, NC3 is played, we see that after BC, BC, Rook B8 check, there will be Knight B3. So we can say that white's attack is gaining the momentum faster. Rook B8, G6, after H6 we know again there is BH6, GH, Queen H6 winning. So Rook F C8, and now after H6, if black prepares the move NA4, then white gets the winning position instantly by means of this combination. Same idea we looked during our Nassdorf preparation also. After King H7, Hg would be a check. So king hides in front of the white pawns, but after Hg, Kg7, white has a forced mate. After the move H8, Queen, Rook H8, this is the same tactical idea. Qg2 check, Bg5, Queen takes G5, King F8, black was trying to make place on the E7 square, but Rook H8 checkmates. So before the black attack could conclude, white's attack was, we can say, decisive. Let's look at the last variation now. After A5, white now approaches the other side. He tries to attack the E6 pawn, and of course G6 plan is there in his mind. So instead of going H5, G6, white is trying to go with the plan of direct G6. So white played Bishop H3, black played Knight E5. Black is also playing quite well over here. So F4, slightly white has altered his plan because F3 was weak. So now Knight C4. If Knight F3 is played, then after Queen E3, Knight into D4, Knight comes to D4. When first threat is to go C6, and second there is idea related to sacrifice on E6 square. Both Knight E6 and BE6 are there. And if black goes BD7, then G6 is there. So we see that white's attack is becoming fast if the knight reaches the D4 square. Black goes Knight C4, Queen D3, BA6. Trying to gain tempo, and the threat is Knight A3 check, winning the white queen. So white queen has to move again. White goes QG3. Black tries to put or intensify his pressure on the C2 square. White goes for the move G6. Now white has to act fast. Black is also preparing his counterplay. Now the first point is Fg loses on the spot. After Fg there is BE6 check. When after the move King H8, we see that H5 is already decisive. There are two threats, H into G6 and Queen G6 both. Queen G6, Hg, and there will be mate. Of course Hg6 is somewhat stronger. Black takes Hg6, H5, this was the plan. Gh is not possible because of mate on G7, and white is about to go with a very simple idea. If move like E5, then Hg, then ED4, when the bishop will go to E6, followed by Rook H8 and QH3, which leads to mate on the H7 square. So black tries a different way to tackle G6, and he creates threat on C2 as well. So Rook C8, H into G6, and now black goes for the move NE5. Not only attacking G6 but threatening QC2 mate. So white has to respond to that, and if he goes GF7, then king can go to f7 and hide from e8. So white doesn't want the black king to escape from there. c3. We must be wondering that the black attack has become strong now, but do note that after the move b into c3, we can just take knight c3 when there are no more threats. And also note that white is threatening b6, fe6, rook h8, king h8, queen h3 check, bh4, qh4 followed by qh7 mate. So that is a threat in the air now. So knight into g6 forced. When again comes bishop into e6, again the threat is simple, queen g6 followed by mate on h7 and g7 both forced, fe6, and after qg6 it's almost game over, because now there is a mating threat on g7, and if e5 is played, then queen e6 check will win. One of the variations could be rook f7, rook h8, king h8, queen f7, and no defense to the move rook h1, bishop f6. And after bishop f6, white has a forced win. qh7 check, king f7, bishop into f6, forcing the king to take on f6. And when white decides the game after the move, rook d6. This position is already losing now. qd6 allows e5, and the threat is to get the h rook to d1 now. So we can say that by now the position is already winning for white. Black played for a few more moves. Black played bishop c4, protecting the e6 pawn. White goes rh d1, and after bc, e5 check, and after the move ke7, rook d7 check, and the game decides. We see that after qd7, he is not going to play rook d7 but qg7, when after the only move rf7, rook d7, kd7, and queen takes f7. So queen for rook situation, and white is winning. So white won the game in this way. So this game I have taken, both players are around 2400 plus rating. So we have covered the first part of our Sicilian Scheveningen. I hope you are enjoying these lessons. Do like, share and subscribe the channel. Thanks for your time.